Welcome back to another episode of Unscripted, the go-to podcast for those flipping the script and taking the unexpected path. I'm your host, Jessica Vergio, holistic life and business coach, author, speaker, and self-proclaimed high-energy hype girl. Each week, I'm bringing you inside. No gatekeeping here. I'll touch on proven holistic business strategies, powerful mindset shifts that have led my clients through massive transformation, and no BS conversation with industry leaders designed to help you get out of your own way to actively pursue a life of purpose. If you're ready to ditch the limitations at the door, hit follow and get ready to be activated to step boldly towards your big goals. Now let's dive in. Welcome back to Unscripted. I'm excited for you to tune into today's episode with Mel. He is one of those people that I have been following for quite some time. He spoke inside of a variety of different masterminds that I've been a part of. He has this knack and gift for breaking content down around finances that helps you actually understand it, especially if you're someone who claims to not really know numbers or not be a fan of paying attention to your numbers. I know I'm not talking to just myself here. By trade, he is a CPA, but he is truly an entrepreneur and a CPA for entrepreneurs. He is a frequent guest on some of the top shows and podcasts where he shares his thought leadership around achievement, financial freedom, and building businesses of impact. He literally has bought and sold numerous multi-million-dollar businesses for himself as well as his clients. He's a globally recognized thought leader, business advisor, and CPA and financial expert, sharing stages with a long list of Fortune 500 companies as well as beacons in the business and personal development industry. From Ariana Huffington, Chalene Johnson, Brendan Burchard, Ed Milet, Amy Porterfield, Ben Newman, Tony Robbins. He's really good friends with Chris and Lori Harder. He is somebody that the pros go to when they want to get themselves in a financially leveraged place. Because he has a CPA background, he can kind of see and edit into your life. And he has written a book. Yes, you guys, he's written a book that has a lot of different frameworks in it that we, us quote unquote normal people, or us early stage entrepreneurs or budding entrepreneurs who want to start paying more attention to our numbers can actually work through. If you grab the copy now, it comes with a workbook, the implementation workbook. So not only does it provide the value and the content, you actually get to work in doing it alongside of reading it. And he has gifted me with, were you ready for it? Drum roll, please. A guide on how to create a book club out of this book. So stay tuned for that. I'm going to be dropping that as soon as this book launches because I can't wait to dive into the meat and potatoes of getting my finances even more dialed in. This is something that I speak to a ton inside my mastermind groups. It is something that nobody cannot pay attention to. Mel's framework around what he thinks you should or shouldn't do as far as investing if you're still in debt. We dive into it in this episode. I know you're going to get so many juicy nuggets out of it, but it's so nice to learn from people who have gone through the shit. And it's why on Tuesdays, I love bringing you guests and their insight and having them really pull back the curtain on what's worked for them, what hasn't, and how you can get out of your own way to take action around creating change, especially when it comes to your finances. So you have probably come into this episode after we have had our very first unscripted live retreat. And it was literally life-giving, life-changing, and so amazing. If you want the deets on the next one that's coming, please let me know. Just drop me a DM on Instagram. Share with me what it is you would love to get away with for a retreat and what you are looking for as far as what will be helpful moving the needle in the rest of 2024. I'm always sending you so much love. Let's dive into this episode. Welcome back to Unscripted, the podcast. Today, y'all, I have somebody who's very special, who has been an informative teacher for me and so many people that I know in the entrepreneurship community and world. He is somebody who literally is a game changer if you want to talk about all things finances, what you should and shouldn't be doing with your money, ways to create lasting legacy with the money you're making, and just creating an overall legacy in your business and your brand. Mel, I'm super stoked to have you on the show today. Welcome.
Oh, Jess, it's so cool to be here. I can't wait.
Mel, I'm super excited to have you on the show today. How are you?
I am doing awesome. So good to be here.
I know, super stoked to have you. You are one of my favorite teachers. I know you are somebody that many people I know look up to and go to for advice in many different arenas, life, business, finance, all the things. So let's just dive right in because I know you're a busy man and you've got some exciting things coming up. Can you share with us what you've been working on lately? I know there's a book coming out and some other things that you've been working on.
Oh my God. So the big thing is the book coming out, the Building Your Money Machine. This is the first hardcover copy that I've got.
So exciting. Look at that. It's beautiful.
It really is. It really is. It was a battle for the cover, whole different story. Authors, the cover design is just always a challenge.
Yeah, I went through that when I did my book. I learned all of the lessons of what never to do again when writing your own book. I wonder if that's something we can do a separate episode on because I have some people who've reached out about book writing. I'm not the go-to person for book writing, but maybe we could put a few links in the show notes for people. But I know writing a book is a labor of love. What was the intention behind writing this book?
So here's what happened. In November of 2022, I was speaking at a big audience in Austin, Texas, 2,200, 2,400 people. And I got done with my keynote, and the promoter of it said, "Hey, we have some extra time. Would you be open to doing a Q&A?" And I said, "Yeah." So now my talk was about money. It was about wealth. It was about life and building a rich life and not just a wealthy life. And in the conversations, in the questions afterward, I came off stage and it felt heavy. Brendan asked me, "What's going on?" And I said, "The pain, the angst, the anxiety, the fear, and the uncertainty in the audience around their money." He says, "I get it." He says, "That's what's going on." I said, "But it doesn't need to be that way." And he says, "What are you going to do about it?" And I said, "Here's the challenge. I have no desire to build a book of business and do all that. I have a desire to see people live fully their dreams and everything. And the only way I can give them access in a way that fits my future and what I want to do was to start by writing the book, to start by giving them the tools of a road traveled, not theoretical tools. I have training and education that allows me to do it. But at the same time, it was really about giving someone access to simple ways, simple frameworks and processes to allow them to finally sit back and say, I can be in control of my financial destiny. It's not hard. It's simple. Now, there may be some difficulty on the road, depending on your facts and circumstances, your age or stage, but the difficult doesn't mean impossible. And yet so many people were willing to settle and settle in the fear, settle in the angst, settle in the financial stress. I think it doesn't need to be that way. I didn't come from money. So this isn't silver spoon talk. My dad came here at 17 years old with nothing to go to school. He became an aerospace engineer. He made a decent living, but we weren't living lavishly. We had used cars. We lived in the same house all my life that they bought in 1958. So I built it. I built what I had. I lost what I had. I rebuilt it. So it's possible, even if you think you made mistakes. And yet I got this feeling that people were willing to settle, and I'm not willing to settle for life.
So when you got off that stage, was it the energy from the room or the faces that were looking back at you that gave you that like insight as to how much fear was really coming up for people there? Because it had to be like palpable in the room for you to feel that heaviness when you got off the stage.
It was the energy in the room, and it was the questions that were asked, but watching when the questions are asked, the rest of the people was almost like a wave, acknowledging, oh yeah, that question. And so the question wasn't an isolated question. It was a question that everyone else was having in the room, but was afraid to ask because why? Because we're told that to talk about money is impolite. It's taboo. And that's what we grew up with. Yet statistics and a new study by the American Psychological Association showed that 72% of people say today that they're stressed about money. 22% say it's extreme stress. Call it three quarters. Three quarters of the people are stressed about money, but don't talk about money. How do we ever solve that stress? And how much of that stress is destroying relationships, destroying lives, destroying health, destroying productivity, focus, and the richness of life. And yet I look at it, I go, if we just talked about it, give them some simple tools and a recipe, stress can go away.
Where do you think that comes from, that sense of being hush about money? Was that something that was just passed down from generation to generation? It seems like it's getting a little bit easier to talk about your finances and money, but you're right. It's still one of those things that you avoid talking about or even paying attention to in your business. And we see this so much with early stage entrepreneurs not wanting to look at their numbers.
Yeah, it's like you have this little hole that you're driving through and you say, if I just go fast enough, maybe I won't hit the sides. If I close my eyes, maybe it won't hurt. But y'all, if your head's in the sand and the train hits you, it's still going to hurt. Okay, you just may not see it. And I don't mean this in an insulting way. I think part of it is the ignorance, is to sit back and say, I've never really studied it. I have a skill, I have a talent, I have a strength, and I'm taking it to market. There's this other piece of business called the numbers and called money that I don't understand because I never really focused on it. And so I'm either going to relinquish control to someone else, which is a mistake, or I'm going to just pretend it's okay. And as long as I have money in the bank account, I'll do just fine. And we don't ask it. We don't talk about it. But I'm a CPA by education. And so I am looking at financials all the time for families and for businesses. And so I'm always asking, I'm always investigating, I'm always looking at things. I just had a conversation with someone that you would think that they had their handle around the numbers, but literally we were able to eliminate $400,000 in expenses. 400,000. And that's 1 year. Can you imagine if we had gotten into the game earlier for them? And had they been able to take that 400,000 and put it to work for them in their personal life? Whether you're in business or a job, you got to manage your money because your financial future is coming. Your retirement's coming. Your golden years, they're coming. And they're not getting paid for by government subsidies. They're not getting paid for by Social Security. They're going to get paid for by you. There was a time in history where we would get lifetime income called pensions, but that time's gone. And it's now on our shoulders to create our own pension, our own lifetime income. I think that we should have the opportunity to live our great years before our golden years and into our golden years. Too often we're waiting till those golden years come, whatever it is, 50s, 60s, 70s, and then we don't get a chance to enjoy it because of health, because of other things. I want you to enjoy the whole journey from beginning to end.
I can only imagine the person you saved almost $500,000 is going to enjoy his journey a little bit more. I know you speak a lot about building your money machine. So what are some habits or behaviors that people should have or start to implement or build better strength around in order to create that money machine?
The first thing is to realize and accept the fact that your business, if you're creating a business, or your job is not your wealth. We get raised to go get a good job, go get a good career, go make money. If you make enough money, it'll solve all world's problems. Think about Burt Reynolds, think about Nicolas Cage, think about Mike Tyson, think about Willie Nelson. All of them made hundreds of millions of dollars. They went broke. Some of them still are. Okay. So it wasn't the money that mattered. And so making more money doesn't solve the problem. And the problem is, especially when we talk about the fulfillment and the richness of life, is when your ability to earn is directly tied to your efforts to earn it, you will always be imprisoned by the money. Hence, the money machine. I figured out at the hands of a 6-year-old boy, my son, I became a single full-time dad when he came to live with me at about 5.5 years old. 6 years old, he came running in and saying, "Daddy, I drew a picture of you at school today." Now, I'm an entrepreneur. I'm building my firm. I'm building my business. I'm doing everything you're supposed to do to build a business. And I'm thinking that I'm going to get this picture and it's him and I in Disneyland or playing ball and doing all the things. And I kneel down, I grab the picture, and here I am standing in front of 2 computer screens and a phone in each ear and the one on the desk ring. And in a moment, a 6-year-old boy put a mirror to my soul and showed me that I was screwing up the best gift that was given to me, and that was to be a parent. And that's when I started this obsession with, how do I get off the treadmill? How do I separate my efforts from my earnings over time? Now, it won't happen overnight. And that was the birth of the money machine, is that there are things you can do and invest in and do that will allow you to pay for your bills, pay for a lifestyle, and fund everything without a direct one-to-one relationship with your efforts. And yet, too often, we see a career and we're punching a time clock or we're running the miles and we keep running the miles. I come from that. The CPA world is notorious for it. We have timesheets and billable hours and all that stuff. But as soon as you get off that treadmill, you're not making any more money. And if you didn't build something on the outside, how are you going to survive? So that's where it all came from.
I love that.
The bottom line is, the first thing is to realize that the business is not your wealth. It is the fuel for your wealth and your freedom, but it isn't it completely. You have to do something else with it.
So the fact that we speak to a lot of early stage entrepreneurs on this podcast are people who are either making a pivot or doing something, maybe or maybe not. They've taken a hold of their finances and this is or isn't a struggle. But let's just speak to the ones who this is a struggle. Someone who clicked on this episode based on the financial title that we give it and is thinking, how do I get myself out of debt? How do I start to create a money-making machine when I'm...
The first thing is, you cannot win the wealth game in the stands or on the sidelines. You have to get on the field. You have to play the game. What that means is that I need you to commit to making your financial future a priority. Now, that might sacrifice some things in today's life, the present time. Now, as an entrepreneur, the beautiful thing is, if you want to build something in the future and today, you have the opportunity to start looking and saying, how do I scale my income? How do I get paid more? How do I make more so I can have both? The other thing to realize is that your ability to be financially free and to build something substantial that carries you and supports you is less about the money and more about the behaviors, more about the decisions and more about the habits. I tell people all the time, I said, you do not have money issues. You don't have money problems. And they'll push back, say, you haven't seen my bank account. You haven't seen my credit cards. You haven't seen how much debt I have. And the fact is that those are symptoms. They're not problems. They're symptoms of choices and behaviors and habits from the past. Now, the challenge is this. I'm not saying it to blame anyone because we all did it, including me. I wiped out 1/3 of my net worth one time, bad decisions. But if we're not willing to change those behaviors, we can't expect a different result. The beautiful thing is if it truly is behaviors, and it is, then all I have to do is change it and I end up with a different result. But we have to also do something else. And that is this. The tendency is to beat yourself up because you didn't make the right decisions in the past. You are in debt and you're going, how could I do this to my family? How could I do this to myself? Blame will not allow you to move. Blame isn't productive. The way to look at it is to sit back and say, one, I accept where I'm at. And two, to understand that you actually had to get here to develop or to get to the point to go to where you wanted to go. I lost 1/3 of my net worth. I needed to go through that. As painful as it was, I needed to go through that to develop another set of skills, another set of rules, another set of things that I get a chance to teach now to keep other people safe. And so if I sat and stewed in the blame and I'm an idiot and tell myself the stories that we tell ourselves, you and I wouldn't be having this conversation.
You wouldn't have that book coming out.
Nope. So we accept it. We understand that we had a role in it without blame. And then we ask ourselves, what lessons can I extract from it? Because that allows us to move forward. Lost 1/3 of everything I owned in a Ponzi scheme. 18 months. Now, trust me, I pouted, I resented, I got angry. I did all the things. And then I got up and dusted off and said, I got to get on. And so 18 months from that date, not only did I recover what was lost, it was well into the 7 figures, I tripled it. And I tell the story in the book, but the bottom line is what came out of it. Call it $1 million education. And y'all, the rules, the criteria, and the lessons are in the book. If I paid $1 million for those lessons, you all can get it a whole lot cheaper than I did. If we have debt, if behaviors are the key, then I want to change the behaviors. One, I need you to get on a debt payment plan. I want to get you out of what I call destructive debt. That's financing lifestyle. That's financing consumables. There's 2 kinds of debt, destructive debt and productive debt. I don't think all debt's the devil. I think that there's good debt, there's bad debt. You can call it that. But the bad debt, the destructive debt, is the debt we use for consumables, for lifestyle, for things that we can't afford today, but we want today. So we're going to rob our future to pay for them today by putting them on credit. And marketers, credit card companies, are great at it because they know if we can play the payment game with people, we can remove the friction from the buying decision. They buy more, and we slowly erode our financial future one payment at a time. Now, constructive debt is the debt that's going to allow you to increase your net worth or cash flow over time, which means like it could be a mortgage on a rental house. It could be Facebook ads on a credit card that you're going to get an ROI because you're making sales. That stuff is actually expanding your net worth and expanding your cash flow. It's constructive. Now, whether it's destructive or constructive, all debt has 2 characteristics that we absolutely need to know. One is all debt costs. There is an interest cost to it. So it's going to bear a burden on you financially. The second is that all debt stresses. It's going to stress you financially and it's going to stress you psychologically. We just need to understand that. But when we put a debt plan in place to get rid of destructive debt, stop digging, stop going into debt, that means you got to be critical on your spending. That means that you have to be critical on your income. And now you at least stop the leaking. Now we can start moving out of that situation. There are some people that will tell you until you're completely out of debt, don't invest. I'm not one of those. Financially, does it take longer to get out of debt? If I have $500 to put towards debt and I decide that I'm going to put $400 towards debt and $100 towards investing, yes, it's going to mathematically take me longer to get out of debt. However, your debt management muscle is a different muscle group than your wealth creation muscle. You need to work both. Because if all I do is train myself to get out of debt, but I don't understand and learn the elements of wealth building and investing, I can't build anything at the same time. So I say you do them at the same time. Otherwise, you're only working one muscle group. It's like the dude that goes into the gym, only works the upper body. He's fine until he puts shorts on. He doesn't look so good. And so I think that we should be doing it at the same time with a plan. And then the third thing that I would do is this. Every dollar needs a job description. You think about your dollars as your employees. And we have something in the book called the Wealth Priority Ladder that literally tells you what every dollar should do, in what sequence, in what order. It is the recipe, the prescription, however you want to look at it. But here's the challenge. Most people don't operate from a plan. Most people operate from a bank account. That lends itself to temptation. That lends itself to comparison. That lends itself to emotional buying decisions. When your emotions go up with your money, your intellect goes down. You make bad decisions. And we are being barraged with it. Instagram all the time. I got a $900 coffee maker that I bought off of Instagram because I sit there and I go, I can make a cup of coffee from my desk. I thought it was really cool. I'm not exempt from it. But here's the thing. If I put a plan in place that says, this dollar is for the mortgage, this dollar is for rent, this dollar is for the car, this is for clothing, this is for our dining out and our fun. Now, when I go out, dine out for fun, and I take $200 that was in the plan to do it, there's no guilt, there's no shame, because it's already done. But here's the key behind all of it. You make the plan before you ever earn the money, because if you have the money in your hands, it's too hard to flex the plan. So we decide before it ever is earned what it's going to do for us, just like we're hiring employees. You're going to hire a bunch of employees. Your dollars are your employees. You're going to decide what their job descriptions, their roles, their tasks, their goals. You're going to do the same thing for your money. You do that for the employees before you ever hire them. We should do the same with the money. And now we just operate the plan.
You're right. Yeah, we create job descriptions for roles in our job that we want people to fill. Why would we do it with our money? And why, Mel, why on God's green earth has this not been taught in school in a format that makes sense for people growing up before they have their first job? I had my first real employee paycheck job at 15 years old, 14 years old. And nobody was teaching me what to do with this little bit of money. I was spending it faster than I could make it.
It is mind-boggling, and this is a pet peeve of mine. I believe that we can actually solve our youth's financial issues and make them all financially independent if we just give them a couple skills. We got a kid. He's 16 and a half years old. He joined one of my programs. His mom wasn't sure about it and said, look, if you don't think it's of value a year, 2 years from now, I'll refund it. Don't worry about it. 6 months ago, we're on one of the calls. He says, I got a job. He's now 17 years old. And he says, what do I do? I said, open a Roth IRA. Okay. 3 weeks ago, we're on a call. He says, I opened the Roth IRA. I funded it. What do? I don't know what to invest it in. Great. I said, you still 17? He says, no, I'm 18 now. I said, great. How much did you fund it with? I go, I'm thinking, he's 18. What could he do? $500, $1,000? He says, I fully funded 2023 and I already funded 2024. I go, hold on a second. You're 18 years old and you've put 6,500 in for 2023 and 7,000 already for 2024. And he said, yeah. He says, I live at home, so it's pretty easy. I said, let me do some math for you. I said, dude, every dollar you put away at 18 years old, by the time you get ready to retire, we'll go up 107 times if you just put it in an S&P 500 fund. 107 times. I said, it's going to be $1.2 million, $1.3 million by the time you're ready to retire. You don't have to do anything. The only thing we have to do is avoid stupid. And that's if you stop, which you're not going to do. But think about this. If we just taught our kids this. My son, I started talking to him about money. And I said, here's 4 things you're going to do. I'm going to pay you a commission. You have a portion of it that goes towards savings, a portion that goes towards giving, a portion that goes towards investing, and a portion goes towards living. And he's 34. His wife's 30, 3 homes and a multi-million-dollar net worth. We can do that with all our kids. We just need to be willing to have the conversations and open it up and teach them and instill values and value in them around the money. Now, there's a reason. There's an appendix in the book that is conversation starters for our youth. Because of that, I want us to have conversations with our youth. And there's another appendix for conversation starters for couples, because I wanted to bring us together to build a life that is meaningful, and I want it to start with our kids.
Mel, when is this book coming? I cannot wait to read it like 3 times through.
June 11th is when it is published, and it can't come soon enough. As of the date of recording, it's literally 4 weeks away.
Okay, we are going to make sure this episode drops before then, and we'll have the link hopefully in the show notes for you guys to grab. If not, go click on Mel's Instagram, get the latest. Maybe you can get on the pre-sale launch if there's something in there. I think books like this are the game changers and the things that we need to be investing our time in. And we're so grateful that you've had this journey and that you've learned all the things you've learned, and even the most painful of lessons, so that we can learn from some of your mistakes and everyone else that you've gotten to work with, so that hopefully we can save some pain from others. And even if you are in a situation that is not feeling so great and you're in that debt situation, follow this framework, knowing you did get yourself here, but you can get yourself out. That's always the biggest blessing, I think, is recognizing that, hey, all I have to do is change my behaviors. I know it sounds easier than it really is, but if you are committed and you are prioritizing this as something that you care about, taking the stress out of your life, it will have the biggest ripple effect in your business, in your life, that any other thing could have. So we could give the listeners one last piece of advice. What's something you wish your younger self would have known? Aside from, I'm sure, all the golden nuggets that are going to be in this book, if you can go back in time and give yourself one piece of business advice, what would it be and why?
The richness of your life is not going to be found in the bank account, but we need the bank account so we can have the choices in our life. I was driven by money at first, until I got driven by the experience of life and saying, this is what's important. The money is just the fuel, and that there is a simple way to do it. There's a recipe to make it happen tactically, and we just got to get in the game and stay in the game and make it happen. All the trainings, all the bonuses that go along with the book are to allow people to live into it completely to make it happen. If you want the link, they can go to yourmoneymachinebook.com. If they're in Europe, Canada, you have all the different booksellers there, and you'll be able to get all the bonuses to help you implement and execute.
Yes, guys. And this isn't just a book. This also comes with an implementation workbook that you can also, is this for purchase on the side also?
No, right now, for all the people that are purchasing through the end of June, it will be a gift to them.
How amazing is that?
I want to get people to do the book. I want them to live the book.
Oh my God. Okay, you guys heard it right here. I am starting a book club with Mel's book before the book even comes out. So if you guys want to work through this book with me in real time, I think this would be a really fun exercise to do in a way, to support you in your own business and your own wealth growth, and also for us to support Mel for putting the time, the effort, and the resources into creating a book that is going to help not just us, but every single person that hopefully we come in contact. Especially if you're a coach or if you're an early stage entrepreneur, do not let yourself get into a situation that you have to get out of. Let's be proactive, because we're all about taking action here on Unscripted. We're all about taking the unscripted path, which is actually owning up to some of the things that you're not quite experienced in and taking the action to learn about them. And there's no better person to learn from than Mel. So grateful for your time, Mel. You're the best. I really look up to you and appreciate you and everything you've done. Just nothing but the best for you and all the success your way. This book's going to do so much for so many people. It's going to leave such a legacy. You're amazing.
Oh my God. Thank you for having me, and thank you for the gift of being able to share and serve.
My pleasure. You guys, we'll see you on the next episode of Unscripted, and stay tuned for that drop for the book so we can start this book club.